From some of the most iconic scenes in TV history, to incredible characters and even crazier murders, You has it all. With Season 4 coming to a crazy end, fans are already wondering whether there's going to be a 5th season. Let's talk about it. Is Season 5 on the horizon? Season 4 ended with an absolute bang. I mean, who would have ever thought that Joe would go back to New York, of all places, in an attempt to get away from the crimes he committed in London? Not just that, but Rise popped in for a minute, and he finally realized that he'd got a really dark side and wasn't the good guy. But that's not all. Kate's PR campaign made him a pretty big deal, so now he's a pretty prominent figure, at least in the city, making it all the more difficult to just slip away to another city if his murder spree gets out of hand.
What's little man's name?
Oh, it's Henry.
I dated a Henry.
Hard to be invisible with the greatest lady magnet in the history of the species strapped to your chest.
Plus, he's even got a bookstore of his own this time, bringing it full circle to the first season, meaning that he could potentially have another Cage hidden there as he tries to get a fresh start once again. Could this mean that he's finally going to be caught for his crimes? Is justice going to be served? Season 5 opens up a lot of doors, but one of the most obvious routes would be to make him pay, especially since he doesn't have anywhere to run this time. I mean, after teasing that Joe went back to New York, they can't just leave it be, right? And it's one of the most watched shows on the platform, so it's bound to get another season, even if it's announced later on, which hopefully will happen. Other than that, Sarah Gamble, the showrunner for You, has already talked about having big plans for the show from here. With that said, is Season 5 going to be the last season? There's a lot of speculation about the future of the show, mainly because the show's team refuses to give any kind of information on it.
Actually, yeah, I would like to apply for a library card.
Well, you've come to the right place.
Good. Considered Fitzgerald's darkest work. It's about marriage and infidelity.
Possibly because their point of view might not be the same as Netflix's, causing a lot of drama in the future, or they're just not allowed to talk about it yet. Whatever the case may be, fans really want the show to go on for a really long time, as does anyone with a really good show. But Gamble has also come ahead to talk about how they really don't intend to make it go on for longer than it's meant to, saying that the show is about an anti-hero, and that making it go on for too long would just go against the point of it, at least according to the interview she had with Vulture. Not just that, but she talked about how the show's arc moves along with Joe's.
Don't get me wrong. This isn't some German fairy tale where a witch keeps me locked up till it's time to eat me. No, I'm not worried about me so much as, the future of civilization.
So basically, once the character is fully developed, they don't have a reason to make the show anymore. She even went on to talk about how this show isn't like CSI or The Walking Dead. The main character changes a lot every season. Another thing that you do need to consider is Badgley's comments on the show's future. He talked about how he signed on for the show for 6 years, so it's highly likely that they could bring out 1 or 2 more seasons, but any more than that doesn't really seem possible. Though at the end of the day, even he can't really confirm or deny anything because he himself doesn't really know right now. It's much more likely that Season 5 could be the last one, especially since they don't want it to wash up and just bore everyone.
To new friends.
Who can often have a better time together than old. When I fell in love,
I know how that feels.
I got swept up. By the time I realized it was too late.
That's all well and good, but what does the cast have to say about it? Do the people who are actually playing the characters think that it's a good idea to bring in another season? Badgley talked about it in a recent interview with Hollywood Reporter. He even hinted at how the show could possibly end, saying that in the end, they want to make sure that justice is served of Joe. And the new season is going to show how he gets really rich and powerful before that. But that might also be the biggest problem that the writers have to figure out for the show's future. Bringing about a satisfying ending to the show is going to be the hardest part for them all, especially since just putting him in prison isn't the best end.
So my friend Rachel in LA, she said the brothers.
Do you want to top off your wine? Hi. Okay.
Neither is killing him off, so they're going to have to think of something really creative that not only ends the show in a satisfying way, but also serves justice to the serial killer. Along with that, they've also got to figure out what people really want the character to go through in the end. Are fans aching for revenge? Do they want him to go through the same pain? They're all equally important questions that they're going to get more insight into as the show goes along. That is, if it gets more seasons. Ultimately, though, he's not really sure about any of it.
I don't know what she said, but I told you the truth about the other night. We had a drink. She started acting a little crazy. I left.
Thank you,
You're nice.
Oh, don't you do worry.
thank you.
I love you for it.
Oh. Okay, Henry.
But he did seem adamant that the show has to turn him into someone who's wealthy and powerful, so that he can't just move to another place for a fresh start, actually adding stakes to it this time. Only then can he mess up and be caught. On the other hand, when could it come out? Sadly, there hasn't been any news about when it could possibly come out. All of that depends on when Netflix finally decides to announce that the show has been renewed. But assuming that they do announce it sometime soon, it could mean that filming for it starts around the end of 2023. This would mean that at max, you could see it come up on your screens around the end of 2024, or even the start of 2025.
She's relatable except for the part where she's an axe murderer. Is that gettable? Is it my fault if I don't want to get that? It'd be useful if we ever talk again.
Okay, so Sherry's wedding cake was lemon raspberry.
But those are all, of course, assumptions, though they do still line up with the previous release schedules that the show has had. With that said, who could be in Season 5's cast? Since there's no new news about the 5th season yet, there's a lot of speculation going on about the cast. While there isn't any actor who for sure is joining, you can count on Penn Badgley to be in the mix, playing his iconic character. Who else could pull him off that well? Not just that, but there are, of course, going to be a bunch of different characters introduced just for this season, some of whom he's probably going to murder. Most of the characters you've already seen, at least the ones close to Joe, really don't want to be around him.
Yikes. These poor books.
Are you looking for anything specific?
Hi, yeah, we thought that...
It's fine. Most of the gang's here to help set up.
So it's highly unlikely that they will show up again. And finally, how have fans been reacting to Season 4? It's really important for the show that fans love this season, since it could change whether or not it continues. But up until now, it seems like it's generally loved by everyone out there. Part 2 is where fans really went wild when Love Quinn made a return, though for a really short time, but had everyone in awe, with people posting on Twitter about how she's done nothing wrong and they would protect her with their lives. Not just that, but people have absolutely loved that incredible plot twist as well. Although there have been a lot of memes about it as well, that's just normal by this point. Whatever the case may be, the show is great, and I really do hope that you and I both get to see more of it really soon. That's been a look into whether there's going to be a 5th season of You.